Hey, what's up? So yesterday I was talking about Duke Quantum, and today I had a presentation with my team for Duke Quantum about our research problem that we'll be tackling from now on until next semester. And I guess like the rest of next year as well. So that was a really big presentation, especially get a lot of practice in before, let's say, next semester we have a presentation with actual companies to propose our solution to the research problem we found. Um, all that being said, the presentation went super duper well. I'm really glad to say that both the presentation and the Q&A section. I think the presentation was amazing, but the Q&A section I liked it because I was like we actually prepared for those questions and um we understood what we understood our content deeply. The only thing I will say, there were questions that we couldn't answer. And I think I'm glad to say that we didn't BS it. Like we didn't just make up stuff on the spot. We actually said, okay, here's what I know. Here's what I haven't looked into. So, like for example, we're doing the plasma industry. In the plasma industry, you have three stages. You have the collection of plasma, you have the processing of plasma, you have the distribution. The processing is highly regulated. So one of the stuff we said was that our research problem, our it's not really going to focus on that processing stage. It's more so going to focus on optimizing donation and distribution. However, when it came to regulation, we actually didn't look specifically into what regulation is actually enforced for biotechnology companies in the pharma industry, and that was a question that was asked, right? And I could have lied and said, oh, actually, this, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't say that. I said, frankly, I don't know, right? I said, this is what we do know, and we start to look into that. I'm really happy to do that because that was something that was highly emphasized in preparation for this presentation, but I also think it's something very useful for future presentations where it's not a matter of like lying, because sometimes you can just be honest and say, okay, here's what we like. We do have value in what we're saying, and we're people who um we've done the work. Now it's just being honest about what we don't know. Because when we're honest, especially for something like a practice presentation here, we're allowed to, like it's much easier to move faster. So for example, now I was honest with that answer. Maybe so on the one of the judges or I guess one of the club leaders says, okay, I saw this regulation thing. Let me send it to them. Versus me not being honest. And it's like, oh dang, they already know what they're doing, so they don't need help there. When in reality, we don't necessarily know all the regulations, and that's something we should look into. Furthermore, this was a very recent pivot. Originally, our research problem was tackling pharma broadly for financial purposes, having like a better understanding of the pharma industry and simulating it to see how you could get optimized in general. Right, that was our thing, and there's probably some flaws you can see intuitively. But then we pivoted this Monday, I believe. And then one of the big things you really need first a research problem is actual understanding of it, and you don't get that understanding if you're just looking at research papers and um, data. You need to actually talk to people. So one thing I realized was like, wait a minute, donation centers, you can call them up. So I was just calling people up on Thursday and getting a lot of testimonials. That was, I think, yeah, still on my whiteboard. That's what's on my whiteboard. I was calling a bunch of plasma donor centers, and they're actually very responsive. I think it was like 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5 response rate. One nurse got back to me, but I was in class. I couldn't pick up her call. So on Monday, I'll get back to that grind of just reaching out so I can get a better understanding and get more info. But it was really, really helpful. I think that's something that helped a lot because one of the questions was based on your research, based on the data you've shown us, when was that? Like, when was that data collected and published? And the reason it was asked was because, oh, okay, let's say that was from 2015. How do you know it's still a relevant problem? And I was like, okay, that's a good. I explained when we got the data from. I didn't give specifics because I didn't know it. But I did say how we know it's a recurrent problem is that through the interviews we've done, right? Through the interviews we've done very recently, we still see that this is a big problem for the nurses at the donation centers and for different people involved. And that was a really great answer. The president of the organization was really happy with it. And I'm really happy because our work paid off. Because at first, just right after the presentation, it did seem like something we were going to include in text, like, oh, we interviewed A, B, C. It was just something like, okay, I hope we can bring it up. But if we could, I was like, that's cool. But it really helped us there because that was something that's really important, especially when tackling something like this. Overall, if I was to be nitpicky, or not even nitpicky, but reevaluate and say what I can improve on, I don't feel like I'm satisfied with my presentation part where I think I spoke too fast. I wasn't as comfortable with the knowledge, even though it was my section. I made those slides. Um, So I spoke too fast. I wasn't comfortable with the knowledge. I think those are two things. So I really, for future presentation, I really want to hammer that down, make sure I'm more comfortable. Where it's like, if you throw a rock at my head and for some reason, like I'm just nearly unconscious, I can still present the thing, right? I really don't get hit with a rock, but the idea is that's how comfortable I want to be with it. Also, when I'm more comfortable, I speak slower. So it's like I have better enunciation, all of that. So I really want to hammer that down for future presentations as we hope to do. Overall, it was a great thing. It was a great presentation. I love my team. I was thinking about this morning, yesterday. One of the biggest blessings, especially when it comes to projects like research stuff or just academia or anything like that, or anything at school, one of the biggest blessings is to have a good group. Because with a bad group, the thing you're tackling is you're tackling the problem, wherever it is. Like maybe you're doing events and all of that, or you're doing a research project. With a bad group, you're tackling the that problem, but you're also tackling should we do this at all? And when you're tackling those two things, it's hard to get anything done because half of your team members are thinking, is this even worth doing? Versus when you have a group that's really committed to something, it's like, oh dang, it's just everything moves much faster. I think it's not all the time you have groups like that. Sometimes you have more conflict, but once you do have groups like that, once in a blue moon or wherever, it's just so nice. I think I've been having a lot of good groups, especially for my physics lab. We're so efficient, it's crazy. And this group in particular, they're so amazing. I'm really, really happy with them. But also great presentation, great group. With the next steps now is that we do, as UMD, we have some sponsors. So we're going to look to which sponsors we can send this proposal or this research into to see if they're interested, and we can continue from there. But it's really exciting right now. I'm really happy with what we've done so far. Besides that, though, have a great day.